First of all, let me say that I'm honoured to be asked to take the place of Angela Kane. And I think we should really send our congratulations and admiration to her and her team for everything she's managed to achieve over the last few weeks, along with the OPCW and the World Health Organization. It's a magnificent example of how the UN can work and work extraordinarily well. I'm also delighted at the numbers that I see here and everybody for coming. I think it's fantastic. So congratulations to the Non-Proliferation Network, to the European Union for putting this together. Clearly more than rivaling now our friends across the Atlantic. So well done. I want to start perhaps on a different note. To remember our purpose in our community. What are we doing this for? You know, it's really easy to lose sight of why we do arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation. And when we lose sight of what we're doing, it's very easy to stray off the path and to get caught up in minute details that perhaps don't matter so much in the big picture. And clearly, we're all doing this because we care about this world and that we care about other people. And we want to protect people from the weapons that we're trying to control. We want to prevent their use. We want to prevent violent conflict and humanitarian catastrophes. So I'm going to start with looking at Syria. We've seen the horrific use of chemical weapons over an extended period, but one very large attack in August this year. We've also seen other inhumane weapons being used, incendiary weapons, explosive weapons in populated areas used in an inhumane, illegal way. We've seen the use of illicit small arms and light weapons. What we've also seen, though, is a world that has united despite deep political differences, despite deep political intention for the region. We've seen them unite on the issue of chemical weapons. We've seen them unite in the regimes of the 1925 Geneva Protocol. Nearly 100 years ago, the conditions for that were set up. And we've seen them unite within the Chemical Weapons Convention. So from that, what I take is that two things. One is that we understand our purpose. We understand what we're trying to do here, and we can put the big picture first. The second thing is that we know that weapons of mass destruction can be used and will be used. We've seen this from Iraq. We see it every day in the slow motion weapons of mass destruction with landmines and cluster munitions and small arms and light weapons, as Kofi Annan used to call them. And we have to ask ourselves, and I think it must be on everyone's mind, but what if Syria had nuclear weapons now? Would we be seeing the likelihood of their use? Would it have been chemical weapons that had been used? 100 years anniversary of the First World War. Dare we be complacent about the use of weapons of mass destruction? And dare we be complacent about the possibility of large-scale war? The other lesson I think we must take away from this is a really positive one. Don't dismiss the possibility of progress. I was bemused to hear so many of our colleagues talk down the possibility of resolution over the CW use in Syria, talk down the possibility of a Security Council resolution, talk down the possibility, and I'm still hearing it, about it working. If we keep talking ourselves down, what are we doing? Do we not have faith in our work? Do we not have faith that we can actually make this world better and that we can have an impact on what's going on? If we don't have that faith, if we don't believe in the possibilities of what we might be able to achieve, what on earth are we doing in our work? So I want to have a look at some recent success. We've just seen as well in the UN Security Council a resolution for the first time on small arms and light weapons. This is a marvelous achievement. We've seen the adoption and the signing of over 100 countries now on the Arms Trade Treaty. This is a fantastic achievement. The Cluster Munitions Convention has taken hold, it's taking root. We've seen the start of the Nuclear Security Summit process really have an impact on practical realities. We've seen movement on outer space, the code with the experts group, on cybersecurity with the experts group. These are small movements, but they're positive. And we've seen as well our big organizations, the CTBTO, preparatory body, we've seen the OPCW, we've seen the IAEA really act brilliantly over the last few years, professionally, expertly, and with vigor and purpose in every regard, which is quite something. That when you think about how we might have seen it 40 years ago, 30 years ago, we've achieved a hell of a lot. And there's still a lot more that we can do. And of course, we need now to address issues such as North Korea, such as the CTBT entry into force, such as the verification of the Biological Weapons Convention. That's still the prize there. The Middle East, WMD-free zone. Universalization of all the treaties, the NPT, of course. The CW. I note that in the region now there'll be one country, Egypt, that won't have signed the CW. We need to get full application and implementation of the Mine Ban Convention, the Cluster Munitions Convention, and of course we need to move on nuclear disarmament. You note I'm not talking about the Conference on Disarmament. That is a thing that perhaps could actually start to get some movement going. So we have some opportunities coming up, and we have now progress happening in the EU 3+3 talks. Let's see where that might go. We have the Middle East WMD-free zone possibility still out there. Can we put the energy in to that we've seen that we can put into the Syrian issue? That's a challenge, but why not? We've got the Nuclear Security Summit in 2014. What are we all doing for that? And of course, we have the Mexico meeting. One of the great things that happened this year was a new way of looking at the issue of nuclear weapons from a humanitarian lens, which is where it should be. Surely that's why we're all doing this, to prevent their use, to get rid of them. We have the Mexico meeting coming up in February next year. And that's something, I think, into which we should be all putting a great deal of our thought and effort. And we have the possibility of making real movement on outer space and on outer space activities and preventing a war in space and from space in the future. So as Dr. Zerbo said, why is it we wait for disaster before action? I'm paraphrasing you, but it's a very good question. You know, in our community, the reason we're doing it is that we can see the possibilities ahead. We can see the possibilities, of course, for negative action. That's what we're doing, to protect, to prevent. But we can also see the possibilities, the opportunities for positive action, for negotiation, for change, and for making the world a safer place. And there are huge risks in our world. We can, all of us, outline them. We tend to be a community of what I call sophisticated pessimists, where we tend to say, oh, well, there's no point in doing that because so-and-so will only do that and they'll never do this completely. And we'll see all the negatives. We're very good at that. It's part of what we do. We have to. We see all the possibility for use and for humanity to disgrace itself. We have to. If we don't see them, we don't know what we have to prevent. But we also have to understand there are huge risks in missing opportunity. Massive risks. And when the next generations come and look at us and say, what did you do in the war, mummy? Or what did you do in the arms control community, mummy? Am I going to turn around and say, I saw all the negatives, but I missed these opportunities? Am I going to look at them and say, this is what we did, this is what we set up? So a large part of what we're doing as well is having an understanding of what we do that works. And we have a huge body of experience and expertise that we can draw upon. And we can pass that on to the next generation of experts.